This video is sponsored by HelloFresh. Hey guys, Maven here. Now, as you might know, I used to wrestle for the WWE, but once I left the WWE in 2005, my wrestling career did not end. Oh no. At that point, I became an independent wrestler, or an indie wrestler. But what's the difference in wrestling for the WWE as opposed to wrestling on the indies? Well, that's what this video is all about. We're gonna talk about scheduling, food, fan interaction, creative, and of course, you know, we're gonna discuss the difference in pay. First, we're going to discuss one of the biggest differences between the WWE and the indies, and that is scheduling. Now, the WWE's schedule during my time, it was set in stone. They weren't altering it for anyone. Trust me, and I mean anyone. Friday, I would leave my house and I would wrestle Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, all untelevised, or house shows as we called them. And then on Monday, we would have Monday Night Raw, our live show. Now, that was gonna happen week after week, month after month, year after year. On the indies, it's a little bit different. On the indies, if you need time off, you take time off. The only person you're hurting is you. And just like the WWE utilizes weekends to run shows because most people have weekends off and it's easier for them to take their family to a live event on a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday night, the independents, they operate pretty much the same way. But not all the time. I remember wrestling in the indies and a 4th of July once fell on a Tuesday. Well, that meant I was driving on a Tuesday to wrestle a 4th of July match. For me personally, when I was on the indies, I would work mostly Fridays and Saturdays with an occasional day in the week or a Sunday show thrown in there. But if I had something in my personal life, or maybe I was just trying to heal my body, I could turn down any booking I didn't want. I wasn't tethered to a show until my face was plastered all over a poster and they were passing those posters out. Me personally, I actually grew to appreciate and enjoy the WWE schedule. I'm a routine-oriented person. The moment I get a routine, I stick with it. I do the same thing day after day after day. On the indies, it's hard to get into a schedule mindset. I appreciated at the end of one loop getting a piece of paper from Howard Finkel saying, this is what next week's loop's gonna look like. On the indies, yeah, that does not happen. Whereas the WWE, you know you're gonna have shows each and every week. It's not like that on the indies. Sometimes there are just no shows for you to be in. Sometimes you're sitting at home knowing, man, I should be making money, but I'm just not. When you're sitting at home for 2 weeks and haven't wrestled, yeah, you almost feel purposeless, and that can play mind tricks on you. Next thing we have to discuss is a small but monumentally important thing you don't think about while in the WWE, but you will once you're on the indies, and that is catering. In the WWE, on TV days, they would have buffet style food as far as the eye can see. Everything from grilled chicken to your sweet treats if you're not watching that physique. And I would take advantage, sometimes even going once, twice, maybe even a third time, loading up a plate for once my night in the ring was over. It was truly a buffet fit for a king. But in the indies, you're lucky if 20 miles before you got to the building, you stopped at a 7-Eleven and got you a few Kind bars to get you through the night, or maybe one of those spinning hot dog things. You don't know how long it's been there. And there's no indie promotion, no promoter out there who's gonna offer to validate your expenses. They're not asking for receipts from Burger King so they can give you the $20 you spent on your biggie bag or whatever. Any money you dole out for food, that's coming out of your pocket. So remember, I'm doing this match for X amount of dollars. Well, knock that down once you add in expenses. And food, can definitely become a big expense. Now, the scales would somewhat even out on non-televised or house shows in the WWE. They wouldn't provide us a catered banquet style meal. So it's almost preparing you for your life in the indies with you having to be in charge of 100% of your meals on those days. But there is one thing that remains true, whether in the WWE or on the indies, and that is my love for today's sponsor, HelloFresh. And stop, I know what you're thinking. Maven, you're just saying this because HelloFresh is paying you to. And as true as that may be, the facts are that since our first time ever working with HelloFresh, my partner and I have continuously ordered to have these succulent meals arrive at my door, and we're paying for them week after week. For me personally, I mean, you guys have seen, I am no Gordon Ramsay, but my partner loves HelloFresh. The box's arrival, putting the meals together, it's became a creative outlet with tasty results that I benefit from. Scan the QR code on screen or use the link below and sign up for HelloFresh using my code MAVENFEB10. And once you do that, you'll receive 10 free meals and free breakfast for life. That's right, one breakfast item per box while your subscription is active if you're in the United States. If you're outside the US, respective local discounts will apply. Next, let's talk about creative. In WWE, you have a large group coming up with your character or your gimmick. Everyone from the writing team, your producers, and even upper management are all combining their efforts to help you have the best persona, something that they think is gonna get you over. And by over, I mean get a good fan reaction. And while in the WWE, your creative juices sometimes can get squeezed. You have a lot of people telling you where the best direction and the best avenue for you to get your character over. For instance, Maven was not the name I wanted to use as a wrestler. My theme music was not the song I wanted to come out to, and I always wanted to wrestle in long pants, kind of like Christian, Edge, and Jericho did. But all those decisions, they were not in my hands. I had people way up the food chain telling me the kind of wrestler I was gonna be, telling me what my persona was gonna be. On the indies, it's a completely different story. I could have changed my name easily if I wanted to. I also came out to the song I wanted to. I personally used T.I.'s What You Know About That, a good song at the time, and I could wear whatever I wanted to in the ring. The only decision I did not make while on the indies was who my opponent was and if I was winning or losing, but I didn't care. As long as they were paying me at the end of the night, I would have wrestled whoever, wherever, for whatever outcome the promoter had in mind. And it was not like that in the WWE. During my time, Vince McMahon was the end-all be-all. I mean, if Vince told you it was Easter, start painting eggs. And for that reason, I enjoyed the creative freedom the indies had to offer. Next on the list is the fans and the just overall atmosphere. Obviously, everyone knows the WWE packs massive, just the biggest arenas they can find. And you also recognize while you're in that squared circle that millions of people are watching you at home. When you're on the indies, you know it's gonna be a lot smaller, a lot less important. And I've wrestled in front of 72,000 people in the Toronto Sky Dome at WrestleMania 18. And likewise, I've wrestled in front of 50 people on the indies. It's kind of crazy. The obvious difference is production and scale. In the WWE, they have almost an unlimited budget to put on the best show imaginable. You know that they're gonna make you look like $1,000,000, and they're gonna have graphics, and they're gonna have a sizzle reel and a package that goes with your character. And the indies, for the most part, they just can't offer this. I tried to act like wrestling on a smaller scale didn't bother bother me at all. But I have an ego, I have personal pride. I know just a few weeks earlier I was in a massive arena, and on another night I might be wrestling in a bingo hall or a high school gymnasium with people that can't control their kids. Why? Because their kids don't care about wrestling. They just wanted to have something they could do for the night. When you go to a WWE show, you're there for the show. A lot of indie shows, you're just trying to get walk-by audience, and sometimes it can mess with you psychologically. And the difference in fan interactions is something that might actually surprise you. You think people are gonna respect the WWE wrestlers way more. I mean, these are the people they see weekly on their television. But it's actually the polar opposite. For the most part, when we're in a town on an indie show, we're there for that night. So after the show, these fans, they're watching us go to our car. I mean, there's no private parking, there's no secure lot. And once they see us go to our car, they know we're gonna go out to eat. So guess what? They follow us to the restaurant. And it actually sometimes provides a better overall fan relationship. These fans sometimes get to know the person behind the wrestler, the gimmick that they see on TV. When a lot of times, if they see someone on TV, they only know that persona. So if they're supposed to hate them, well, guess what? If they see them in public, they hate them. And when you believe someone is evil, mean, or does dastardly things, sometimes fans can do dastardly things right back. And it's because that relationship that's been built with the independent wrestlers has not been built by your televised superstars. An example that immediately comes to my mind is the wrestler Abyss. Now, when you see Abyss, he performs his gimmick, his terrifying character to perfection. He looks almost unapproachable. But I wrestled with him on the indies years ago, and after the matches, after the shows, we would go out, grab a bite to eat, grab a few drinks, and Chris is the nicest guy anyone has ever met. He would have fans come up to him, he would laugh, smile, talk to him, and became truly a gentle giant. Next, we have to talk about expenses. And I've talked about how in the WWE, yeah, our flights are paid for, but most people are shocked when they find out that we pay for our rental car, we pay for our hotel, and any miscellaneous expense that we accrue along the way, well, we're paying for that as well. On the indies, it's a bit different and actually benefits the wrestler. Flights are covered, hotels are covered, and some promoters will even reimburse if you're using your personal car for gas. And what that translates into is more money in your pocket. However, there is a flip side to that coin. Remember, all these promoters, they're trying to save money. They're trying to be as economical as possible so they somehow get a return on their investment or their wrestling show. And when they set you up in a hotel, it might not be the hotel that you would put yourself up or you would send your family to on vacation. They're gonna get the best value, and sometimes that value might be at the expense of your comfort. And that leads us to, by far, the most important difference between wrestling on the indies and wrestling in the WWE. Of course, I'm talking about your pay. Now, we've discussed in WWE, you're getting paid pretty much per match unless you have a downside guarantee. In the WWE, I was assigned talent, meaning I knew that whether I wrestled 4 matches or if I wrestled no matches, I knew I was getting paid week after week. On the indies, if you did not make or wrestle in a show, your wallet, it was staying empty. So how much did I get paid for my matches? Well, for a WWE house show or non-televised event, I would make on average anywhere from $700 to around about $1,400 per match. Now, there were some factors that went into this. Mainly, how full was the arena and who else and what position were you on the card. If you were lower in the card earlier in the match, obviously you get paid less. If you're higher up in one of the main event matches, obviously you're making more. It differed, but we still knew we were making a good payday. For televised shows, we had similar metrics. Your positioning on the card and attendance all factored on how much you were getting paid. But we were on TV. Obviously, we made more. An average pay for a televised show would be $1,500 on average to $3,500. That can sometimes be for the same match you've had the previous 3 nights, and now you're just having it in front of a televised audience. Now, on the indies, pay is completely different. Does position on the card matter? Maybe somewhat, but not as much. Does attendance matter? Not at all. And the main difference is you decide your worth. You tell a promoter when he calls how much it takes for you to wrestle on his show. He then has the ability to say yes or no, or try to meet in the middle somewhere. Everyone obviously wants to make as much money as possible, and every promoter also has the right to try to profit as much. So there is a delicate juggling act, but for the most part, if you have a big enough name, if you're Nick Nemeth promoters, they're gonna meet your price. And they even might try to sweeten the deal by telling you you can sell gimmicks, or you can sell pictures or t-shirts or whatever else you wanna sell before, during, and even after the show. Something to just add to your wallet. But how much did I get paid while on the indies? Obviously, when I first came out of WWE, my earning potential, my earning value was at an all-time high. People had just seen me on WWE television. They had just seen me in storylines written by the WWE. So wrestling fans, they have a yearning, they have a desire and a hunger to see you. And if that's the case, you can charge more than other indie wrestlers who might not have the same name recognition. But for me personally, at my ultimate peak earning potential on the indies, I could make about $2,000 per night per match. And I know what you're saying, Maven, that's about as much as you were making when you were wrestling for the big boys, and you had your freedom. You could pick your matches, you could pick your character, you could pick your music, you could pick everything. Remember one thing, the consistency of the indie business, it's fleeting, and the WWE provided weekly shows and weekly pay. In the indies, just because you have a good match one week does not mean you're gonna have a show booked the next. And consistency in this business is everything. And another thing, and I know you don't worry about this on a weekly basis, but independent wrestlers do. Sometimes you get done with your match and the promoter, he's already hightailed. He's gone. He's nowhere to be seen. And I have personally had matches where after I fulfilled my end of the bargain, the promoter was nowhere to be found, leaving me high and dry. In the WWE, you never have to worry about that. That check is gonna be in my mailbox every single Tuesday. Another thing to remember about independent wrestlers, as your name value drops, so does your pay. These days, my pay is about $300 to do an indie show. I mean, all the way from thousands of dollars to $300. It makes you wonder, is it even worth it? How far is the show? How much gas am I gonna have to spend? Am I gonna have to get a few meals in? Am I gonna have to stay overnight? Am I gonna be in a car for 6 to 8 hours? And if so, do I want $300 that bad? Everything an independent wrestler has to think about. Now, as I said, even in the WWE, you have expenses that you have to pay for. And once you tally all those up, how much does that leave you with? To find out, click the link on screen.